Okay, so just a quick video to walk you through what I did before with the question we got on the Creality group. So yeah, we had this image that Ryan had posted, so I'm just going to save that off. Stick that in my delete me folder for now. And then before I can drop it into Tinkercad, I need to convert it into an SVG, so a vector graphic. Instead of a collection of pixels, we're going to save it as a collection of lines. So here's Inkscape. Just going to import that file. It's in here somewhere. There we go. Okay. So we've got this bitmap now, and what Inkscape can do with some of the inbuilt extensions is to take this and trace the lines to give us a vector graphic. We can do that under Path and Trace Bitmap. It's got a few different modes it can use to do it. Brightness cutoff's the one that I used, although you might get better results with different modes depending on the image. So this one's just going to give me a series of lines, which is great for things like pen plotters or maybe CNC machines. But brightness cutoff I think probably works best for this. So that's what we're going to go with. Doesn't look like the image has changed, but if I get rid of this window, you can see that when I drag this away, I've actually got this SVG. And the key difference with this SVG is that you're not going to lose quality when you zoom into it. So I can zoom into these lines forever and I'll never see pixels, because this is a collection of lines instead of a collection of pixels. So now that we've got it in this format, we can get rid of the old one. I'm just going to center this in the page. I don't think you particularly have to do this. And I'm going to save that off as an SVG. I'm just using plain SVG. I don't think the Inkscape SVG is very different, but we'll keep it plain just so that Tinkercad can definitely understand it. So I'm just going to call this SVG. We'll call it JPEG to Tinkercad demo. Okay, so I've got that file now. Can create a new design, and then within here we can import. I'm going to choose that file. It's my JPEG to Tinkercad. Little preview of it there. You might find with some of these images that they are bigger than the workspace, so you might have to scale them down. As long as they've been converted to SVG, they're not going to lose any quality by scaling them up or down, so don't worry about that. Mine's fine, it's going to fit on the bed, so I can just import that as is. And there it is. That's the 3D model imported. It doesn't look as clean in here, and that's because Tinkercad puts this kind of outline, almost like cell shading, around the outside of it. But if you zoom in, you can see the structures are all nice and clean. Okay, so this wasn't actually part of the question I was asked, but it's the inevitable follow-on from doing this, is how would you kind of get this in two separate colors? So how would we have this black QR code on a white background or vice versa? So I'm just going to grab a circle in this case, a cylinder. We'll scale it up to match the dimensions of this, which is 405. Make it slightly bigger. Make it, say, 407 mils in each direction. Cool. Looks awful because there aren't many sides to it, so we want to scale that up so it's nice and smooth. And then I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to hit L on the keyboard. I'm going to get this option to be able to align these two items. So if I hover over this one, I'm going to select this. I'm just going to left click it. That's going to let me align to this piece. I'm going to center this way, center that way, and so they're nice and lined up now. I can actually see parts of the model just touching the edge there, but that should be fine. And so that we can see the actual model itself, I'm going to reduce the height of this. Let's make it say, yeah, half of the height, roughly. Just going to eyeball it. Okay, so we've got the whole thing now. I feel like I want a bit more of a border on it, so I'm just going to make this 410. And then we'll align the two pieces again. Just clicking the top one after hitting the L key. And they're nice and aligned now, so we've got a little bit of a border around the edge. Cool, so if we export this as an STL now, just going to save it as this, this default weird name that it's given it. Not that bothered. Into the Prusa slicer, hit import, go into my downloads, and there's my thing that I've just created. It's obviously way too big for the bed. We're going to scale it down massively. So we can fit it on the bed. So I say we'll keep it as that high for now. So if you haven't got a multi-material unit, you'll need to have a filament change. We can do that after we've sliced it. Now I don't think a lot of the details are going to stay in here because of the nozzle size that I've got set up. I'll scale it up a bit just for the demo. Yeah, we'll keep it as that big old pizza QR code. So we've got our flow code there. We've got our full icon. I mean, this thing is flipping huge, but just for a demo. So then we need to scroll down through the layers here to get to the point where we want the color change to happen, which will be here, just after this first layer appears of the QR code itself. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to hit this. I'm going to right click this plus key. This is on the latest version of Prusa. I think it's ever so slightly different on older versions. And we're going to add a color change. I'm just going to say that this is going to be black. And if we scroll up from there, you can see that that has filled in quite nicely. Now it's keeping it as orange just because that's the setting for my material, but we can set that in here if we want to actually get a bit more of a preview of what it will really look like. Cool, and that's roughly what it's going to look like when it's all done. Hope that's been useful.